This is Phillip Cowart with the J.F. Smith Group, and we'll spend a few minutes this morning talking about estate planning and how estate planning works in conjunction with your efforts to raise money for your institution. Now, the thing we're mostly charged with is we're out asking for direct gifts from donors. We've got a plan on how we want to do that, but a big part of doing that should also be talking to your donors about estate gifts. And estate gifts go hand in hand with estate planning. So what is estate planning? Well, estate planning really is the conversation that a family has to determine where they want their assets to go when they're no longer here. Typically, children are the first beneficiaries of an estate plan. Normally, when you talk to somebody, they'll also talk about their church. But in addition to that, normally there are charities involved that they have an interest in. And the key thing for us is to determine that our charity is a focal point in their plan. So how do we do that? How do we come up with that conversation with our prospective donor to ask those questions to find out what they're thinking, or are they thinking at all about it? A lot of times you'll find out that people really haven't given much consideration to it. They're just saying, well, it's all going to my spouse if I'm no longer here, and he or she will do whatever with it. Well, it's really key that you have the conversation and tell them that it's incumbent upon them to make some plans. So how do we do that? Well, an easy thing is when you're having that conversation with the donor, you look at them and casually, have you thought about what you're going to do with your assets when you're no longer here? And normally, as I mentioned before, you'll get the conversation, well, I'm leaving them to my spouse or I'm leaving them to my children. That normally leads to another conversation in that, have you really done some planning? Because without planning, your assets may not go exactly as you want them to do. Uncle Sam always has a plan for whatever we don't plan well for. One thing I like to talk to people about. So what are some of the questions you would ask? Well, they're really quite simple. Mr. Donor, if something were to happen to you today, how do you want your assets to be dispersed? And where do you want them to go? There's some simple things that we could help you with and some ideas we could share with you that would lead down that path. One thing we'd love for you to consider is doing something for our institution, to create a legacy or even continue a legacy you've already started at the institution to enhance the plans you've made. This could be something as simple as including us in your will, or you could get into more, complicated items like charitable remainder trust, charitable remainder lead, or charitable lead trust. So there's lots of ways to approach this. This is the subject we'll explore further in future videos.